for this singular opportunity to stand before you in my capacity as acting president of our great association to deliver a word at the onset of our 27th National Conference in the lovely historic town of Cape Coast. As you are doubtless aware, this is a conference which should have taken place in August last year, but was postponed owing to the COVID-19 pandemic. Indeed, we are grateful to Almighty God for the opportunity to meet here as school owners and to take stock of our activities over the past 2 years. Mr. Chairman, reflecting on events of the past year, I'm tempted to refer to myself as the unluckiest person ever to preside over this great association. On 11th December 2019, the National Executive Committee, NEC, acting on behalf of membership of the association, made me the skipper or captain of the great team that is known as NAPS. This was after the substantive captain, Mr. Eric Appiah, reported injured. At the time, the team was in disarray. As a result of this, supporters were disenchanted since NAPS hadn't won any match in the education space for a very long time. Some would say that NAPS was COVID-19 positive and admitted at the intensive care unit, gasping for breath. Thus, the challenge that confronted my teammates and I was scary. With almost empty coffers, how were we to revive an ailing association whose members were disgruntled to the point where few wanted to be associated with NAPS? Undaunted by the lack of resources and other Herculean challenges which confronted the association, my teammates and I stood up boldly to the task and instantly commenced a process of revamping the association. However, none of us foresaw the big blow that was to hit us. Just 3 months after I took over leadership of the association, and for the first time in the history of this country, schools were shut down for 10 months. Naturally, this school closure brought untold economic hardships on schools, on workers, and on the education industry as a whole. Mr. Chairman, in place of our rebuilding efforts, we started a series of advocacy activities to solicit government support for private schools. First, we placed NAPS on the national agenda by mobilizing from a total of 1,271 schools an appreciable amount of 64,659 Ghana cedis, 20 pesos, 50,000 Ghana cedis of which was donated to government's COVID-19 relief fund. Here, I wish to doff my hat for Mr. Joseph Dabete of Zone 9 in Greater Accra, who mooted the idea of contributing money to the national cause. Though he couldn't make it to today's conference, he has my maximum respects and felicitations. So please, let's give it up for Joseph, who came up with the idea, and for yourself for the contribution. Indeed, this charitable gesture from school owners who were under severe financial stress gave NAPS enormous recognition and pride of place among other private school associations, organizations, and think tanks. Therefore, when in April 2020, we passionately appealed to His Excellency President Nana Akufo-Addo for assistance, he gave us a hearing and directed our steps towards the Ministry of Finance and eventually the then National Board for Small-Scale Industries, NBSSI. NAPS subsequently registered with NBSSI. We lobbied for the inclusion of private educational institutions among the list of business sectors which were to benefit from government's stimulus package meant for reviving ailing businesses. Our efforts led to an appreciable number of our members benefiting from financial support from the stimulus package. While fighting for the interests of our members, we were at the same time vigorously engaged in rebuilding and rebranding the association. First, we embarked on a massive membership drive, which saw our numbers soar from below 1,000 registered NAPS members to more than 2,500 within 1 year. As a means of running an effective administration, NAPS, which has, after many years of being without a national office, rented a national secretariat of its own now and employed a full-time programs officer to assist in the running of the office. As part of our rebranding exercise, we increased our visibility and advocacy by setting up a public relations unit and engaging in a series of media activities, including press conferences, media interviews, and press releases. As NAPS began scoring goals, the team's image rose very sharply, and NAPS earned much respect and recognition. We also warmed up to some key personalities within major institutions of education, including the Ministry of Education, the National Schools Inspectorate Authority, the National Schools Inspectorate Authority, Ghana Education Service, National Teaching Council, the National Council for Curriculum and Assessment. These state institutions aside, we are working with partners such as USAID and IDP Foundation to support low-cost private schools. Nana, dignified chairman, within the 1.5 years of my presidency, I can confidently say that NAPS is working again. The future has never been brighter for NAPS as we strengthen our structures towards greater advocacy. With Dr. Turoson as captain of NAPS, we shall undertake the following initiatives. Within 1 year, we shall review the NAPS constitution, table before Parliament a private schools regulatory bodies bill. Indeed, both the Speaker of Parliament and the chairman of the Parliamentary Select Committee on Education called me personally to acknowledge receipt of letters we wrote to them seeking to meet them for discussions in this respect. Both of them assured me that they will book time for NAPS to engage them fully on the issues I raised in the letters written to them. We shall also commence the construction of a NAPS office complex in Kaswa. We shall partner universities and the National Teaching Council to train, certificate, and license private school teachers. We shall make NAPS a financially viable entity by expanding its sources of income and reducing dependence on membership dues. We shall draw and implement a NAP's medium to long-term strategic plan. We shall, my dear members, implement a functioning welfare scheme for NAPs. We shall introduce private schools' national sporting and cultural competitions, intensify advocacy for the formulation and implementation of education policies that are favorable to the operations of schools. We shall form alliances with international private school organizations and education think tanks. For starters, we are forming alliances with private school associations from Kenya, South Africa, and Nigeria. Already as I speak, a business partner from Nigeria is here at this conference, known as Right Now Media. We will extend the partnerships to other African countries. Nana Chairman, we shall be knocking at the doors of the Education Ministry and government with a host of requests. Research conducted by NAPS and confirmed by other studies shows that the 10-month closure of schools last year has caused us financial difficulties for our schools. Not only are schools struggling to pay debts incurred last year, many schools are unable to break even this academic year owing to two major factors. First, it is 30 to 40% more expensive to run a private school today in the era of COVID-19 than it was in normal times. This is the result of the need for us to supply PPEs, enforce social distancing in our classrooms, school buses, dormitories, dining hall, etc. Obviously, social distancing comes with the need for more space and the need to engage more staff to take care of the learners entrusted into our care. A significant number of school children, particularly those at the preschool level, failed to return to school in January 2021 after the school lockdown was lifted. At the junior high level, some girls also got pregnant and stayed back at school, while boys in deprived communities fell out of school to engage in income-generating activities such as farming, petty trading, and illegal mining. Therefore, enrollment of children into private schools has reduced significantly since January this year. The consequence of this is reduced income for our schools. Mr. Chairman, for the next 3 years, government ought to continue supporting private schools to overcome COVID-19 induced economic complications. The resurgence of the virus, as we have all seen, has made us even more afraid of greater difficulties ahead. We are hereby tabling for the consideration of government the following. 1. Irrespective of the extent of the COVID-19 spread, government should not consider the closure of schools as one of its options in an attempt to curb the virus. NAPS believes that there are many ways of containing this virus while students remain in school. While urging all private schools to strictly abide by the COVID-19 protocols in their schools, we also pledge our readiness to share with government knowledge and experiences as to how to contain the virus while schools remain open. 2, we state here that private schools should continue to benefit from the supply of PPEs, books, other learning materials provided by government. 3, we state that the loan extended to private schools last year as stimulus package should be converted into a grant in support of these schools, since majority of our schools cannot pay back the loan. Number 4, that the Ministries of Education, Local Government, and Finance should initiate dialogue with the metropolitan, municipal, and district assemblies to understand the critical role of education in development and therefore offer private schools special rebates in the payment of property rates and business operating permits. It is disheartening to report that at a time when schools are struggling financially, some assemblies are demanding outrageously high property rates and operating permits. 5, as our parents struggle to make payment of fees owing to the impact of COVID-19 on their businesses, we implore the West African Examinations Council, WAEC, to review downwards its charges for registration of BEC and WASI to ease the burden on parents of private schools. Alternatively, government for the next few years could absorb the cost of registration of private school candidates as it does for the public school candidates. 6 and lastly, government must discontinue the 30% BEC priority placement policy which favors public schools. This rather discriminatory policy and the exorbitant BEC registration charges are leading causes of the high attrition of final year JHS students from private schools to public schools to enable them enjoy free BEC education registration and also stand a chance of being placed in some of the best senior high schools in the country. I proceed to conclude. Nana Chairman, special guest of honor, guest speaker, colleague NAPS members, within the 1.5 years of my tenure as president in acting capacity, God has been gracious to this wonderful association. We have, with His assistance, braved the storms and emerged victorious.